Hey, what's going on? As promised, I'm going to break down the three events that led to Alex Smith's demise as starting QB for the San Francisco 49ers and him being traded to Kansas City. The first event, rather, happened during the 2012 offseason. The big thing that happened during this offseason was that the Indianapolis Colts let go of one Peyton Manning. They felt, with his neck injuries and the fact that they would have to pay him 28 mil if they didn't release him within 24 hours before his contract kicked in. Yeah, Peyton Manning became the big fish. He became the biggest deal. Teams all over the league who were quarterback deprived and starved were gunning after this man. No question about it. The Miamis, the Tennessees, the Clevelands, you know what I'm saying? They were all after him, But there was one team that kind of surprised everybody. One coach that made people kind of look like, huh? Are you serious? That man was Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh decided to check out Peyton Manning. So of course the rumor mill and the rumor mill of the league started to grind. Is Jim Harbaugh looking to replace Alex Smith with Peyton Manning? Now, of course, Alex Smith, his contract was coming up. Actually, yeah. So he was looking to see if the 49ers were actually going to extend his contract, where he can actually be the undisputed starter. He had a stellar 2011 season, which I spoke about. 13-3 record. Threw only 5 picks, and had the game of his life against the Saints in the divisional round of the 2011 postseason. So you figure he figured that he'd be compensated a little bit more. What he got was even more controversy than he's dealt with his entire career. Not only has he dealt with being benched in favor of elite QBs like J.T. O'Sullivan and Sean Hill, now he's got to contend with the swirling rumor that Jim Harbaugh is looking to bring in Peyton Manning as the starting QB for the San Francisco 49ers. So, yeah. Of course, he wasn't too thrilled about that. I don't care what anybody says. He definitely played his character well on camera. He's very professional, very straight, just very even-keeled. But in the back of his mind, he's got to be thinking, not this shit again. And so, of course, he sent feelers out to Miami, see what they would offer him, see if they would even go after him. Well, we all know what happened. Peyton Manning chose the Denver Broncos, and the 49ers, knowing that they basically flubbed up and really owed Alex an apology of sorts, signed him to a 3-year extension, 24 mil, 8 mil guaranteed. 8 mil guaranteed. Yeah, he was due $8.5 million after the 2012 season. So that was number one. He's the starter. And of course, first game against Green Bay, he played very well. He played extremely well. Outplayed Aaron Rodgers. So during the stretch of the 2012 season, he goes 6-2-1. Yeah, that one we'll get to in a little bit, but he was playing much better football. I mean, he's actually trying to get the ball down the field even more than he had done in years past. He had a firm grasp of the offense, and that's thanks to actually having the exact same offensive coordinator for the first time in his career, where he's gone through 7 and 8. The team believed in him. The team was behind him. The team was playing well. But event number 2 went down during that one tie. As a matter of fact, before that, let's talk about what Alex Smith did and what he helped do during the 2012 season. The San Francisco 49ers against the Buffalo Bills became the first team in NFL history to pass for 300 yards, which that meant Alex Smith did that, and rush for 300 yards. They piled up 600 yards of offense and 300 and 300. First time in NFL history that's ever been done, and Alex Smith was the QB for that. So another high mark that he could put on his resume. But like I said, he went 6-2-1, and that one was against the Rams. And the 49ers are coming off a bye week, and they looked sluggish. They looked absolutely lethargic, and the Rams took it to them early. And so, of course, Niners start to get back into the groove. Well, event number 2 happened. Alex decides to scramble. He decides to scramble, and St. Louis Rams linebacker Jolon Dunbar gives him a pretty good lick. It was good enough to blur his vision, Alex's vision, that is. And yet, even with blurry vision, he still marched the team down the field and threw a touchdown on Michael Crabtree. But he took himself out of the game, and he was diagnosed with a concussion. So, of course, that meant that his backup, Colin Kaepernick, kid out of University of Nevada, Reno, steps in. Of course, this game was ugly by both teams. Both teams played very poorly. And, yeah, it ended up in a tie. Yuck, right? But this isn't about that game. This is about Alex Smith. And what happened the next week because of Alex Smith's concussion changed the face of the franchise. It changed how people would actually address their injuries. But most importantly, it changed who was going to take the reins as QB for the 49ers. Event number 3, and this was the big one. This was the major one. Because had this not have happened the way it did, we wouldn't even be talking about Alex Smith leaving. I promise you that. Event number 3 was Colin Kaepernick's breakout game against the Chicago Bears in Monday Night Football. And that game is significant because that Bears team was one of the top teams in the NFC, if not the NFL, coming into that game. And they had lost their QB the week before. So, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be a defensive battle. They're just going to establish the run game and kind of ease Kaepernick into it. No. Harbaugh, Greg Roman, they took the training wheels off of him and told him to bust loose. And sure enough, on a national stage, he showed out. He balled out. And like I said, I'm a Niners fan. Everybody knows this. So, of course, this is awesome. This is great. I said it. In 2011 during the draft. You can check my Facebook out if you want. I was excited that the 49ers drafted Colin Kaepernick. I was excited, and I said that the minute he takes over, we'll be good. I didn't realize it was going to be happening this fast, but I said it. Now, 49ers thrashed the Chicago Bears in this game. And all that did was create a serious controversy. Because on one hand, Alex Smith has been cleared to play. Because now the next game, they're going to New Orleans to face the Saints, rematch. Classic postseason game. So Harbaugh, being the cerebral assassin that he is, of course, teases the media and says he's going to go with the hot hand. And of course, it's so open-ended, you don't know who he's talking about. Because on one hand, you had Alex Smith, who, like I said, went 6-2-1 and set the NFL pass completion record for at least 15 pass attempts when he went 18 of 19 against the Arizona Cardinals. And like I said, I already spoke about the Bills game, so he could be talking about Alex. Then you have Colin Kaepernick coming off of this masterful game against one of the top defenses in the NFL. So, of course, you're trying to figure out who's who, who's what, and you're thinking that there's this code. There's this code that no player loses their job due to injury. You tell Drew Bledsoe that. That's why he was no longer a Patriot after Tom Brady took his spot. But the fact of the matter is, Harbaugh, the night before the game, told both QBs that Colin Kaepernick would get the start. And once again, Colin Kaepernick plays well. I mean, he got rattled a little bit, but he still the offense looked much more dynamic under him. They felt they could do more with him. His athleticism. The kid's got a cannon of an arm. I mean, you hear these analysts when they talk about his throws, man. I mean, it's the truth. But the thing is, they could do so much, and his ability to run the read option, or AKA the pistol, which is what he ran at Nevada under the father of the pistol, Chris Ault. So, with that trinket, it became abundantly clear. It became very crystal clear that Jim Harbaugh, given the opportunity, given the opportunity that he can get Colin Kaepernick into the game and actually play 60 minutes, that he was gonna run with them. He wanted Colin Kaepernick. He sought him out. Personal pro day. Matter of fact, Peyton Manning's QB camp in, what was it? Yeah, 2011. He was with Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck, he asked Andrew Luck, all these QBs, who else impresses him, and Luck said Kaepernick. So there you have it. Jim Harbaugh was destined to get Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was destined to be under Jim Harbaugh. But what we didn't realize is that he was destined to be the starter for the 2012 season, for the remainder of the 2012 season. So unfortunately, and I went back and forth with this too, because I felt bad for Alex. I really did, because of how he was demoted. He was demoted. Let's just go ahead and call it as is. It sucks that he lost his spot because he did the right thing in saying that he had a concussion. What can you do? You know how the league is cracking down on that. He had to. But it was just a bad time for it to happen. You can't predict things like that, but it was just the worst time for him to go through something like that. Because had Colin Kaepernick played like Jason Campbell or played like Brady Quinn, this wouldn't even be an issue. But the fact is, Colin wanted to be the starter, and he wanted it bad. And it's not like he pulled a shady move to do it. He played well, and he gave that 49er offense much more options, much more choices. So it was a tough break time for Alex Smith. Colin Kaepernick takes over. They go 11-4-1. They win the division. They make it all the way to the NFC Championship. And Colin Kaepernick, after running over Green Bay, leads the 49ers back from a 17-point deficit to get them in the Super Bowl. They fell short against the Ravens, the eventual Super Bowl champions. But to know that Colin Kaepernick got them over the hump to get them into the Super Bowl, that was it. There was no way Alex Smith was getting his job back. There was no way he was going to be the starter. And then on top of that, he's due $8.5 million. So he's going to be sitting as a backup QB making $8.5 million. 49ers knew right then and there they had to do something. They weren't going to release him, but they knew that they had to try to shop him around, see what team would see him as starter value, and get some picks off of it. And sure enough, we have the Chiefs, ladies and gentlemen. Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid, they said, was very, very, very determined to get Alex Smith. He was very sold on him. So Kansas City gets a starter for at least 2 or 3 seasons while they hopefully pick up a QB in this year's draft. Even though this year's draft, there's no RG3, there's no Andrew Luck, there's no Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton. You don't see any of those dynamic star QBs coming out of this draft. I mean, Geno Smith, Matt Barkley, Landry Jones. I mean, these guys were talked about big time, and then they had their shitty seasons. It's just that simple. There's nobody dynamic coming out of this draft. So the Chiefs are sitting with a prime pick during the worst time. So they needed a QB right then and there. And for Andy Reid's offense, Alex will work. But it's what they gave up that's pretty interesting. The Chiefs gave up their number 2 pick in the second round. That's the 34th pick. The 49ers were sitting on 31. That's essentially a late first round pick that they gave up. And then on top of that, in 2014, they're also giving the 49ers a potential, at the very least, 3rd round pick, if at the very best, at the very most, a 2nd round pick in 2014. So Jim Harbaugh, and you got to credit this man. You got to credit him for knowing how to bring out the best in a QB. Because look what he's done with Josh Johnson, at San Diego State. Andrew Luck, Stanford. And hell, if he would have had his way, he could have had RG3 at Stanford. So think about that. Andrew Luck and RG3 at Stanford. Come on now. But the job he did with Alex Smith, who everybody said was just a complete bust, damaged goods, there's no reason that he needs to be a QB in the NFL. That has to be one of the most masterful jobs that anybody has done, because he rebuilt him from being a bust to being a starter for another team and getting high value picks off of a trade. And that's also a hat tip to Trent Baalke, the GM for the 49ers. But as a 49ers fan, I will say this. I've had my negative things to say about Alex Smith during his bad years. And what the 2011 season made me realize is that he was dealt a bad hand the minute he was drafted. You look at the organization, it was a complete clusterfuck. You know, Mike Nolan as the head coach. You look at guys like Rashawn Woods and Kwame Brown, and you know, Mike McCarthy was his offensive coordinator. How funny is that? 2005 season, it was garbage season. 2006 it was a little bit better, but then 2007 comes around, he gets hurt, and Nolan starts throwing him under the bus, questioning his toughness. And then Mike Nolan gets fired, Singletary comes in, Singletary doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and makes it worse, and then basically, emasculates Smith, just like Nolan, these defensive-minded coaches, when Vernon Davis had to step up and defend Alex Smith. And so, going through all that, not to mention the carousel of offensive coordinators that he had to deal with year after year after year after year, guys like Mike McCarthy, Norv Turner, Mike Martz, who else did he have? Jimmy Ray, guys like that, and it's just, you can't build any kind of continuity. And then of course you have coaches that don't protect you and that don't defend you. So yeah, he was damaged. But the 2011 season, they get rid of Singletary, bring in Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh talks and converses with Alex Smith and asks him if he still wanted to be a 49er, and Alex said yes. So Jim Harbaugh worked with Alex. Him and Greg Roman built an offensive scheme, built an offensive form. I want to say formation, but no, that's just not where I was going with that. Offensive game plan. There it is. Built an offensive game plan that catered to his skill set, that accentuated his positives and hid his negatives. They weren't expecting him to chuck it deep like Drew Brees or Tom Brady. That's not his game. Smart reads. Smart, short, intermediate reads. You can get the ball down the field, low risk, moderate reward. And sure enough, it works. But the main thing that Jim Harbaugh did was instill and restore confidence in Alex Smith. He worked with Alex Smith. He wanted Alex Smith to know that he had his complete respect. He had his back. And he would defend him from any and everybody that has anything negative to say about him. And he did that. Man of his word. You look at the 5 comeback victories that Alex Smith had, fourth quarter comebacks that he had in the 2011 season. The one that stands out the most is the one in Philly. And the one in Detroit when Detroit was 5-0. So it's not like Alex Smith was getting lucky. Well, yeah, man. He had, that defense was helping him out. And yeah, defense can only do so much. But he was the one marching that team down the field to get points on the board. And then, of course, the New Orleans Saints game. So let's not go there. Alex Smith, like I said, as a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, I owe Alex Smith an apology. Will he be compared to the Mannings, the Bradys, the Breezes, the Rodgers? No, of course not. But he definitely earned a lot more respect from me. And he's owed a lot more respect from Niners faithful. And he definitely did everything that he could do. And that's why I have no malice, no evil words or anything like that. Alex Smith, it sucks that you were dealt this hand from the time that you were drafted to where you are now. But the 2011 and the first half of the 2012 season, you played well. You played great. And I wish you nothing but the best in Kansas City. And I genuinely mean that. So, salute. But yeah, this is Adrian Mason. Off season. Another Sunday without football. But at least I can blog about it, right? So tune in and I'll have some more fun stories, off season stories, draft, especially come draft time. I'm definitely going to be up and ready for that. So be on the lookout. Until then, be well.